Welcome to the Department of Life Sciences podcast for Women at Imperial Week 2026. International Women's Day 2026 centres on the theme Give to Gain, the idea that progress happens when we intentionally give respect, voice, care, knowledge, opportunities, and resources to others. In a university community, that giving doesn't only apply in lecture theatres or laboratories. It happens in offices, technical spaces, meetings, emails, and everyday interactions that keep the system running. We're bringing together voices from across the Department of Life Sciences, from administration, technical teams, research, and teaching, to reflect on what giving has meant in their working lives and what we can all gain when equity and support are shared responsibilities.
In this episode, we are joined by Fiona. Fiona, could you tell us a little bit about your role at Imperial and a fun fact, or maybe even a part of your role that you find most rewarding?
Yeah, sure. So my role at Imperial is Senior Lab Technician in the Sir Alexander Fleming Building for Life Sciences. This is quite a varied role, but in a nutshell, it's sort of oversight of the research lab spaces, the facilities, and the groups. And I sort of have some part in looking after health and safety, lab refurbs, looking after how the waste is managed. So yeah, quite a few different. The most rewarding part is getting to see positive change. There are a lot of things that we do that are the same day in, day out, but also getting to make progress in terms of either making spaces nicer for people to work in, making processes more efficient so that people can, find things easier to access and, easier to find information going forward. That's really rewarding, getting to see things just progress as we go, and it's always a team effort, so yeah, it's nice to see things come together and people benefit from that work we do.
Yeah, good. What motivated you to pursue a career as a lab technician?
So when I was studying, I never really had a discipline that I was committed to. I found lots of different things interesting, but that kind of held me back from pursuing research in a really sort of narrow field. So my first job after graduating was a technician in a sixth form college. And that allowed me to have a really broad range of experiences. And I liked the fact that every day was different. And there was a lot of liaising with people. There was lots relying on organisation, which is one of the things that I get a lot of satisfaction out of doing. So once I found that sort of role fit me well, I just continued in that vein and sort of moved into a university setting and then progressed through different roles, different departments, learning different things. So yeah, I really like the variety and the ability to sort of, there's always things to be picking up, even if you're not necessarily lab based anymore. Now my role has a lot more sort of management to it, which again, coming from like just setting up practicals in a teaching environment to going through to managing people, you learn a lot in a completely different way. So there's always something to be improving on.
What's really nice about that is I think as a student, you never know that this kind of technical and technician career even exists. And I just would like to know, how did you know that these roles even existed? Was it simply just looking at job portals and finding things and going working at a sixth form college? How did you discover that kind of world post degree?
Yeah, good question. So it was looking at job portals, and I was looking for something that was based in a lab because I always knew I enjoyed the kind of hands-on aspect of practical science and research. And yeah, it was one of those things I came across where I was focusing on something where I had the ability to do that. And knowing that I didn't have an academic discipline that I was sort of set in, I was casting a very wide net. So it kind of just came into my path. And one of my managers at my first job was really interested in sort of outreach and sort of hosting technicians conferences and, you know, the kind of STEM outreach. She was really good at getting people together, and she opened my eyes to sort of the networking opportunities and stuff like that, which then opens you up to, you know, all the other technician jobs, and you get to see how technicians are treated in different sort of industries. And I would say Imperial's good for the networking for technicians as well. Like, we've got the newsletters and the Teams groups and sort of semi-regular forums with other London universities as well. So you can, once you've got your foot in the door, or you know that world is out there, there's a lot to sort of find out. I found that the technician roles actually provide a lot more stability. This isn't in all cases, but in comparison to the normal academic pipeline, and that was something that quite attracted me as well. There are a lot more kind of permanent job roles that I've seen that are technicians, whereas you've got to get quite high up the ladder to know you've got a secured job in some of the academic roles. And you can also do a lot of sort of diagonal jumps in terms of promotions, and there aren't often promotion pipelines for techs. But if you just move slightly into another department, again, it's the always learning thing, and giving yourself different opportunities gives you've got quite a lot of freedom, I think.
Which kind of brings me a little bit more to a kind of a more reflective question. And this is around this theme that we have around International Women's Day this year, which is this theme of give to gain. And you've spoken a little bit about now you're a manager and how people have given to you in your career by opening up networks and opening up some doors. And I just wondered, just when you hear the theme give to gain, what does that mean to you in your context of your work?
So I was thinking of it in terms of the job role, sort of being a technician, and lots of us have the sort of main goal to deliver a service when we're technicians, and that just inherently is, you know, you're giving something to the department that you work for or the institution, but also you're putting, as I said before, you're putting in place structures to make life easier for other people, improving the working environment. So there is a lot of our time that is given to make things better for others going forward. And I guess another point I wanted to make with that was that as a technician as well, and, you know, with all of our colleagues, it's not just one person giving something to go forward. It's often the product of all of us doing a little bit of something that comes together to, you know, have that wider goal, which we're always striving towards. So helping research groups to achieve their goals in an indirect way, improving the reputation of the college, that sort of thing. Like, it all feeds into everyone having the same goal.
Yeah, and I think what you raised there is a really key thing around collaboration. And I think that collaborative message is really important. So speaking of it more reflectively, can you share a time when someone gave you support that made like a real difference?
So something that's very current for me in my sort of impending maternity leave is that my team and my manager have been really, really supportive in how I work in this period where lots of things are changing for me. I commute from West Sussex, which is fairly significant, to come into South Kensington every day for what it can be quite a hands-on role. And I've been given a lot of support and grace in terms of being able to work from home, working more flexibly. Members of the team, you know, are so happy to, you know, offer help and do things for me on site that I can't necessarily do from home, and just make it an easy transition for me, which I've really, really appreciated, because not everyone can be afforded that in the roles we work, especially in hands-on jobs. There's sort of an expectation that you just carry on doing what you're expected to do. And, you know, if you can't do it, then you shouldn't be doing the job. But there's been a lot of flexibility afforded to me. And I found that being able to sort of save my energy and redirect it in different ways has been hopefully useful for the team as well, in terms of I can take on more of the administrative load and hopefully make it easier for them going forwards in the year I'm having off, setting up service contracts and sorting out a lot of paperwork that often we don't have the time to do when we're running around on site. So hopefully by them giving to me, I've been able to put something in place to make their lives a bit easier down the line as well.
And that's really, really great to hear. What are some ways that you try and give to others?
Yeah, I always try to give the time of day to someone, whether they've got a query or need someone to listen to them for talking about a situation that might be distressing them or something like that. I feel like that may seem like a small thing, just listening and giving someone that time, but it actually does make a difference. And having an approachable nature means that you're more likely to catch problems in the bud early, sort of when people can trust you and come to you with issues, rather than people sort of holding off and then waiting until it's something serious, and then you're not as well equipped to deal with the problem. Yeah, and again, with the sort of community, it helps you feel like you're part of something bigger. You don't feel invisible, you feel like you've got someone you can go to. And even if I can't help directly, I always try to sort of point someone in the right direction if it's not something that's sort of relevant to me. And yeah, hopefully that makes their day a little bit easier.
I think that's what you're talking about, is just being a good citizen, really. And I wondered, how are these contributions recognised?
Well, within our department, we do have awards for general citizenship and people who have made a difference in health and safety improvements. So those sorts of things are really nice to, get a thanks if people are seeing that you're doing something that's making a difference. And I guess on a sort of more day-to-day level as well, I think you do, if you have that kind of attitude where you're very willing to help others, you get it back in spades, because the next time you need to ask a favour, people will be more inclined if, they've had positive experiences with you, and it feels, much more collaborative than if you get shut down, then, you might not be so inclined to, go to that person again.
And now we're kind of coming to towards the end of our questions. And I wondered, if you had to sort of look back, what advice would you give to yourself?
Yeah, this is a tricky one. I think my general advice would be to look for the bigger picture. I know that's kind of a hard thing to put in the context of when someone's starting out in their career, and how do you look at the bigger picture when you haven't even started? But sort of on a more day-to-day basis, in everything you do, if you're looking at sort of your motivations behind doing something, and sort of, while you can execute tasks really well, it's not necessarily about doing a task and getting it done day to day. It's more about, as a whole, how are you doing the job? How are you coming across? What's your role in the organisation in general, and what you're getting out of it? So, yeah, being able to take a step back, I guess.
I think what I get from what you're saying is, although you might be doing a task that you might find repetitive or a bit mundane, right? And in that moment, you might be like frustrated with it, but actually taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture, looking that you're gaining skills, looking that you're part of a wider team that values you as an individual, is part of a bigger journey, a bigger step to where you're trying to get to next.
Yep, I think that's very eloquently put. I guess, kind of the point I was trying to get across, which is slightly adjacent to that, but what you said was perfect as well, is that if you can look at yourself within the organisation that you're in as part of like a bigger picture, seeing what the smaller things do, like the networking and, taking time to volunteer for things within the department, and making yourself approachable and speaking to people you haven't spoken to before. There are lots of benefits to that sort of behaviour that you wouldn't necessarily pick up on if you're just focusing on a task at hand as well. So, making the most of your opportunities
Which leads me to my last question, which is a bit more speculative. And I just wondered if, if the powers that be within the department or the faculty, Imperial, or even sort of the wider higher education context are kind of listening to us talk today, what's something that you would consider changing with respect to this kind of give to gain theme?
My main thought on this was that everyone who I meet sort of within the college is very capable, like brilliant at their jobs, brilliant minds. And so we're very lucky to have a real wealth of sort of expertise, and we do a lot here. What I've found is that everyone's spread very thin as well. So I guess in an ideal world, how do we free people up to feel like they've got that freedom to give a little bit more of themselves? As you said, not everyone can take up the opportunities for training on a regular basis, where there have been workload concerns raised in sort of staff meetings and through the union and stuff like that. So if there was a way that we could just cut people a little bit of slack to allow that time for people to develop themselves and develop relationships and volunteer and feel like that's not impacting what they have to do on a day-to-day basis, I think that would help in the give to gain theme by people feeling like they can give more freely.
Good. And what a powerful message to end on. So the last thing I'd like to say is thank you, Fiona, for being part of this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.